Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew listening in out there, wherever you do, or watching, because we're on YouTube and Instagram and all these different places where people look to get their business news in Hawaii. We're really excited to go to the boss's office today. Today we're in the Treehouse Coworking space in Kailua with Keno Knieriem, and we're really excited to talk to him about this place and also his place that he's got in Kailua. And so we're just glad to come to your office today, Keno.
Oh wow, yeah, honored. Thank you.
Yeah, no, so this is so cool for us because we love going on site and seeing things that are happening. You've got a really cool space down here.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, co-working, where does that come from? You've got to be the expert.
I don't know. We were working on a surf park in Austin, Texas, and our office space was maybe this big, 4,000 square feet, and one of our consultants asked our CFO, who at the time was mid-60s, and hey, can this other person come and co-work and rent one of the desks that you guys aren't using? And we didn't know what co-working was. It was 2013. We're from Hawaii, we're always lagging in this area, right? And so it took a couple times for this guy to ask our CFO. Finally, to take a step back, our corporate culture was intense. We were in a startup real estate development. We were putting in, I was easily putting in, 80 hours a week.
Right, office space was sort of an afterthought.
Right, yeah, it was like we were focused on getting this development entitled, permitted, designed, operated, so maybe 14 people in the office. Guys almost got into blows a couple of times. A bunch of Hawaii, intense friends. We had some mid-60s guys, some
plus
mid-30s guys. Plus the
work was going like crazy, lots of deadlines,
stressed,
pushing.
And the females, were in the mix there. And finally we got this coworker to come in, and she was a graphic designer, had nothing to do with our business. She only had access to the space when we were there. Was paying $300 a month to rent a desk we weren't using, and our office space was, I think, I don't know, $3,400, $3,500 a month. And that day, like, this good-looking female comes in, the guys in the office space start wearing deodorant, they're wearing collared shirts, we're talking nicely to each other. The females have a girl to go talk to in the bathroom about us, probably. We had another group, another business to help. And our corporate culture improved because there was social accountability in the workplace.
Sure.
And it was cool. That was 2013. So when we came back from
Austin.
Austin,
Concept, so that people, basically the idea is that when people come into a shared workspace, they're a little bit more behaved, a little bit more, considerate of what everybody else is happening.
Yeah, if you're a team, and then I think if you're by yourself, it's like how, it is useful to network. You are who you spend time with, and so I think to be around other motivated people just rubs off on you. I think the other part of it, motivation-wise, was when we were trying to raise money to build a surf park with a technology that was just invented for artificial surfing. And like, where do you go? Yeah, 2011. 2011. Okay. Where do you go to like talk to other people about small business? And like, we just didn't have that ecosystem here. So we felt like in Austin, we found our people, and there's people out there that were taking big risks, trying to make changes in the world through business. And why can't we build that culture here and I think the culture that my wife and I are really passionate about is that just help to help, We don't need to think of ourselves as consultants, and we need to get paid in order to share our best thoughts. It's just help everybody, and it comes back to you in the long run. And we're bettering Hawaii by helping other Hawaii residents.
So it's natural too, and it's such a shift from the concept is such a shift from the big sort of corporate commercial, buildings downtown, and of course there may be some shared workspace over there. Yep. I guess each place has its own little culture, and it feels like there's several entrepreneurs and different things that work here. What kind of folk? What would be the person that would use a shared space like this?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty wide variety. I think our oldest member is maybe in their 70s, and our youngest is in high school. But we have people raising private equity from the mainland, and being able to like sort of talk about those business experiences with people outside your company is nice. But yeah, engineers, lawyers, any sort of creative professional, architects, interior designers, engineers in different sort of construction fields seem to be popular.
Right.
A lot of digital marketing.
Right. Yeah, because just going out and getting your own space in a commercial building is probably expensive, and you can kind of, per your needs, use this space here, right?
Right. It's expensive, and it requires, you know, some sort of business track record. You know, someone's got to sign a personal guarantee. Someone's got to commit to a long-term lease.
Yeah, that's the 10 years.
Someone's got to design your office for you. You got to furnish it. You need to buy printers and have an IT guy.
Wi-Fi,
and so
all that
we
overhead.
do all of that, and it's, you know, instead of having to sign your life away to get an office space to be maybe a little bit more productive outside of your home, or for your employees to be together, we take that risk, and then we create the environment to sort of facilitate that. And I think as a state, it's like we are underserved in that area. You look at a place like Denver, and there's 100-something shared office spaces where this collaboration is happening. And in Hawaii, you know, I think anyone who's in this space is really sort of doing God's work if we are trying to like
sort of laying the foundation for
and again, it's
like
we are trying to get off of tourism, right? And so we need more small business. We need people to take risks to start businesses and hire people and create sort of that next round of opportunity for our kids to have jobs and address this brain drain issue, you know?
Right, and that's we do talk about that a lot as part of, you know, the business concern for Hawaii, is that, you know, we don't have enough folks, you know, to staff all of the work that we need to have done, and if folks want a good education or opportunity, they have to go to the mainland, and then trying to come back is
right. And then when they do want to come back, it's like, oh, you want to work in Hawaii, we're gonna, even though we're local businesses, we're gonna sort of cut you at the knees salary wise, you know. And I have I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think the other thing that we're doing, maybe that we could address, the business community should address as a priority, is like we should have capital, like real professional private equity venture capital on Hawaii, because right now our best entrepreneurs in the sort of startup ecosystem, we're just sending them off to the mainland to go start their businesses there and hire there, or hire remotely, because the talent is there, but the talent's everywhere, right? And so, you know, why can't we have access to capital in Hawaii so our best talent, our best businesses can grow right here, and we can give them that Series A, Series B, Series B, you know, follow-on capital to create innovation here. And co-working spaces are just, you know, the smallest part of that. It's just really the interaction, the collaboration of the people that are in the space.
Right.
But again, you know, it's a starting place for people to grow.
Yeah, and that is the difference, because I've talked to a couple of accelerators on the podcast that, you know, that's what they're doing, but the business has to reach a certain level first before they, you know, they can inject that money in there sometimes, so that just those ground level folks that have a hard time sort of getting it off the ground.
Right, yeah, and you know, it's like our accelerators here, we're giving, you know, some startup capital, maybe some space, but you know, if you're in the tech industry, you know, and you need to hire one well-qualified person, I mean, that's way more than 50 or 90 grand, whatever they're offering. You know? So I think, you know, that sort of seed level offering in Hawaii isn't maybe competitive with the mainland, and so what can we do to bring that sort of capital to our entrepreneurs here?
So on Hawaii Boss, we find about what you're doing. This is a great space you're doing, but we're always curious about, you know, successful business owner in Hawaii right now, and facing the challenges and that, and sometimes, you know, you wonder if successful, you know, how do we exactly quantify that? But you know, when you were growing up, this is what you thought, owner of a Treehouse Coworking Space. What was your future trajectory?
I own Treehouse, and I have partners. My wife, Dawn Hunt, is, you know, it's like she can't be here because she's taking care of our twins. But yeah, I mean, I'm an end user. My business day job is you know, real estate in this kind of startup surf park space. Building a Hawaii surf brand to compete with maybe a lot of these mainland brands that are
the
emerging.
Texas one in Texas, and then, you know, Kelly's
there's 100 of these getting built around the world, and no one's sharing Hawaiian culture, and so that's what I do out of this space. And then we have 2 restaurants in Kailua that are sort of, but I think it's all in the same genre of like real estate with an impact. Like co-working spaces, you know, I feel pretty strongly about that. Business is this force for good, and we should talk more about that. That, you know, I think nonprofits are great, but it's really hard to be sustainable as a nonprofit without the government and grant writing and how many
it's
resources
an arduous
go
process,
into that. You know, versus a business that can sort of, you know, to be sustainable, you have to make money. It's not that's not evil. but I think you can take it one more level and make money and create impact and be maybe what they're calling a for-benefit business, and scale faster and raise capital to do that, and solve problems through business, maybe like Tesla. You know, I think would be a good example.
Right. And so, well, talk about that a little bit more. As we talk about Hawaii Boss 2, important thing is folks need to know. I think we try to understand how to do business with aloha, and a little bit of give back. And so, from what you've said, that's kind of part of what this is that give back to the business community, and again, not for profit is for profit. Either way, it's about what kind of messaging, what kind of culture that you provide, right?
Yeah, I think it's super important, and I think that gets to the core of the sort of consultant mindset versus this aloha business mindset, which is, hey, let me just help you to help you. And I can tell you the best mentors I've had in the last 12 years are super successful, and they will do anything to connect you with this person or offer whatever resource they can, and they're never looking for something in return. And if it is, it's in the same spirit of like, hey, I could use some help on this thing. If you got any ideas for me, please help out. But I think we can, it's like in real life in Hawaii, it's like, I don't even necessarily have to know somebody, and if they need something, it's like we're gonna give the t-shirt off of our back.
Right.
And then all of a sudden when it comes up with business, we're very like, sort of at arm's length in some instances.
Where we don't want to get technical because that kind of, we can't do business with aloha if maybe there's a little tension sometimes.
Right, or maybe we're competing with each other. There's this idea that we are competing. But I mean, in all these industries, cyber, digital marketing, the whole digital world, to me, as a non-digital person, it's like, we're not competing with Hawaii. We're competing on this global scale. And so why wouldn't we collaborate if we're both in digital marketing to help each other out?
And I think that's a great vision for Hawaii, is that sort of that global space. Certainly we have our connection with the mainland, but I think there's a lot of businesses that have opportunity internationally from here. It seems like a jumping off point to Asia.
Yeah, agro-tech, obviously technology. I mean, just in the last 6 months in the Kailua office, we have a cyber startup that's raised $90 million, from Hawaii. The CEO's here, right? And his team's on the mainland, but it's like they could be anywhere at this point. There's 2 tech companies that did Series A. There's an AI gun control startup, 5 Navy SEALs. One of their, kind of Hawaii members is based out of Treehouse in Kahala now, but they're tapping into camera systems in, like, let's say a school district, and they can identify a gun through the camera system, through the AI software that goes through a human that's possibly based in
just picks it up where it goes to,
pushes a button, yes, confirming that's a gun, and within 5 seconds, there's a process of 911, school security team,
also location,
finding out, and then tracking that gunman through the property with cameras, giving them real live data, versus a 911 call, and then you're responding 20 minutes later and you don't know where this guy is, what he really looks like, right? So it's objective, cool data.
And that's what's neat. A lot of different, people come to Hawaii to be creative and to do business creatively, and kind of have the space to. There's not so rigorous. I mean, I guess not rigorous, but they can kind of. Hawaii sort of offers that, that space of creativity.
Yeah, it seems like there are, at least during COVID, we've had this influx of people who are fairly successful, especially in the tech space, right? They escape these big cities, and they're here, and they like the community. That's why they're still here. They haven't moved back to the mainland, and they want to know what to do. And I think that's a great opportunity there. Is like, can I paint a picture of where we want to go to maybe what industries we want to get into, and then these entrepreneurs can take that risk and sort of create those type of jobs.
And it's
I don't know how you feel about that.
No, it's good to have a place like this because there is that sharing. Because people from the mainland, business, they want to come in, they got a lot to learn sometimes.
Right.
And so coming to a space like this where there's a lot of that is exchange of ideas and on how we do it here, and sometimes people have a hard time getting the pace of things, and that as you've seen and worked with folks from the mainland, is there any sort of things that you've seen they've had to adjust to?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it seems like most of them are coming here and they have their routine, right? Like they have their job figured out or their industry figured out.
Right.
At least what I've seen, even if they're like a remote worker for some digital company.
Right. So they just came for the lifestyle.
They could be anywhere. and they just happen to be working here, and either renting a house here, living here. But maybe that next tier up that is successful, that has made Hawaii home, and there is a demographic there that they love the culture here. They want to understand it. They want to respect it. They want to
and do business respectfully too, and come in because they know that they have to do understand.
And they see opportunities to make difference. Make a difference. And I don't think they're necessarily bringing their values to the table. I think a lot of these people are open to tell me where we can fit in, but they can't go read a Envision Honolulu 20-year plan that says, oh, we are trying to diversify by creating these kind of jobs for our kids, and if you follow one of these paths, then we'll maybe make the government process a little easier. I think what they do is they donate big checks to people. It's one way they can feel like they're helping. Is
Hawaii
hey,
United Way,
or Castle Medical Center, but it seems like, can we capture those people and turn them into a resource or an asset for Hawaii? I don't know what that answer is. But.
Yeah, and that's the expectation, is sort of that, what they call it, hui or whatever like that, when people, maybe they're not of the same industry or whatever, but they have resources that if combined, could create something, a little bit different.
Yeah, I've talked about this with a bunch of people who they've moved out here, they retired, they sold their hedge fund to their partner or whatever it is.
They're doing very, very well.
Yeah, and they're bored because they're retired, and they retired at 50. And so hey, can you guys start, can we create a private equity fund that only invests in companies that are gonna, sort of be in some sort of space that hires local people and then start to create this job path.
You have to have businesses that are interested not only in the bottom line, because if you add up the numbers in Hawaii, sometimes they don't necessarily. But again, if you're trying to create a lifestyle for you and for others, sometimes that's the give, right? That's
it's got to make money. I mean, it has to. But then what else can you do? But again, it's can we get businesses that are going to create more jobs here outside of the industries that are established? If we're trying to get away from tourism, how do we? I don't know how much money that brings into our state economy on an annual basis, but I bet it's huge. And so to say, wow, there's going to be another pandemic, how do we survive that? Well, okay, let's diversify our economy by being in tech, but if the money's not here, then how do we?
Well, let's talk about that. What is the pivot away from tourism in Hawaii?
I don't know.
Does everybody have the answer for that one? That's
I've heard tourism 2.0. Let's get back to high net worth travelers, fewer number, higher average spend, longer stay, less impact on the environment, on the community. Okay, cool. But it seems like, it's if you ask one more question, how do we get away from tourism, then, or even government, right? How do we, create alternatives to working at the county or city or state, right?
Which
more
is
attractive.
Which is steady. All the people that work in the healthcare system, that are in the state healthcare system, or the school system or whatever, sort of that keeps that sort of that monolith sort of continuing to.
It's can we,
feels sometimes for business it's in the way a little bit.
And there are people out there who probably have really good thoughts on that, and they've done their research and they know, hey, agritourism, we can grow to be maybe export, and if we're talking,
instead of waiting for an apparatchik in sort of in some department somewhere to tell us this is maybe the new direction of
it's I'd love to hear a governor say, hey, this is where I think we could go. There's a document in Austin called Envision Austin. I think they're on 4.0, but it's a 40-year plan. I think it gets updated every 5 years, but everybody is at the table, right? Education's there. The equivalent of the Native Hawaiian community would be there. Everybody's at the business
really
community.
Create the blueprint.
And it's where do we want to go? And it's okay, cool. Let's talk about brain drain. We want jobs here that pay this much money. Well, here's on paper. These are those career paths. I think film is something that we're really good at.
Sure,
and we
that's
could probably invest in there. It seems like space could be a thing, right? We are.
When I was on the Big Island, there were a couple of places they wanted to create spaceports, where they're launching rockets off over there on the Big Island.
Yeah, I mean, space is a big industry. It's cyber is a big industry, but I think with our cyber can be a growing thing here, connected to Asia, and our government presence here, the military's presence here. Obviously, the tech thing, but I think tech just needs money, right? And we have plenty of money here, but we need professional money that's willing to compete at the
At the level of those folks who are coming from the mainland. Or,
right, yeah.
Locally.
Right. And then try to make them hire people locally somehow, right?
Right.
Because I think the film industry's recently just made that transition, and I don't know how, but it's like all of a sudden Hollywood major motion pictures are, we're not bringing in talent from California. We're like hiring stunt coordinators from here. Like my partner Brian Kailua is now producer on these big films, and it's like,
here in Hawaii, that film studio is busy all the time right here around Montserrat.
And
around
adding more, right? Yeah.
Right.
But then there's the there's all the sort of side industry. I don't know what the term is for that, but there's camera rentals and lens rentals.
Oh yeah, all the food production and stuff that goes along with it, feeding the cast
and
all
the
that.
training, right? We have like when at KCC, we have this whole training program. You want to become a grip or a whatever these different technical things are that you can work your way up to being, and there shouldn't be a cap. It's not like, oh, you can only become a second unit director because you live in Hawaii. We have to bring in the real talent from LA. It's just like, if we invest in this industry, maybe like Brian, like people can become producers, right? We can have this like, Jason Momoa type guys.
Right, coming in, like Diamond Head Theater's growing over there. They built a brand new place, and they're trying to bring in bigger shows. That's one of the things people, I think as it continues to grow more art to different things, that's, I guess, the sign of a healthy community is the arts and things.
Totally, yeah, and I think that's part of the culture that, the Hawaiians were so successful at living that they had time for these like great artistic pursuits. Fashion's probably pretty neat as an export, and I think we have a lot of success there. And like, where do we go? Do you have to go move to New York City to be in fashion, or can you be in Hawaii?
Right. Especially with the ability, since the pandemic and everybody jumped onto Zoom, there's still people that are kind of like they get their stomach turn every another Zoom call, right? But we've become so connected to our digital our space that you can do a lot of things from here that normally you'd have to all the resources are right here, but now it can be dispersed and still managed.
Yeah. Our buddy raised $8 million. I mean, one of the Treehouse members raised $8 million without leaving the island.
Yeah, a lot of connections that way.
That's fascinating. Again, he's in a different, caliber of entrepreneur.
Right.
Super successful. This isn't his first startup.
Right.
He has relationships.
Right.
Yeah. He's been there, done it. But
so as we talk about Hawaii economy transition, pandemic, you understand. Right before or right as the pandemic was starting, that this is you started this up. I mean, as a business owner yourself and kind of facing that, how did you adjust? What were some of the 1 o'clock in the morning conversations? I guess
Yeah. Well, I wish I was better at what I did or what I am in the business world.
Right.
I have better answers here, but no, I think January 2020 we got our sort of like site control for our property for the surf park in Kailua. We signed a lease in Kailua to expand our Kailua co-working space.
Okay.
With the intention of like kind of being a passive landlord and having tenants and giving people the opportunity to maybe do retail without having to sign a personal guarantee and like if they could take the chance to fail without like losing their house. Right.
Makes the risk a little bit more digestible, right? You don't have
And we signed the lease here at the same time, like January 2020, and it was like, it was crazy. Like our permits here took 12 months, nothing structural, just city wasn't working remotely, and just I think that's a common story to be told. And I know it seems like the mayor's really passionate about trying to solve some of those challenges.
He's sort of a business guy too, so have that media and sort of.
It seems like he's a leader, and he's just looking at like we need a successful society, and so part of that is we need to be able to like function as a government. You know?
And we should be able to still, everyone with their, their unemployment and everything kind of just blew up during that time, and I imagine the same, I guess.
Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, we opened a drive-through, sort of because the pandemic, in my interpretation, was it was a health issue, right? Keep your immune system strong. Don't be obese. What were the comorbidities that were killing people? Right. And the only food that's open, at least in my neighborhood, was fast food drive-throughs. And I'm like, wow, we want people to be healthy, but we're not giving them that healthy option. So we opened a sort of anti-inflammatory drive-through restaurant in partnership with this PhD who was a Treehouse member in this inflammatory space, Elena Maganto, who's saved my life. and yeah, like staffing people,
Right.
hiring people. You're getting paid more to not work. Why would you want to work?
Right.
It was this whole, like, we really had to sell this mission-oriented job setting,
Right.
and then be super involved as owners that, like, hey,
That was a challenge for everybody. I mean, a place where none of us had been, and so again, you were able to adapt. It appears, and sort of adjust, and maybe looking back, you'd say, hey, we wouldn't want to do that way again, and maybe be a voice for other ways if there's, hopefully there's no pandemic here coming up, but. Where do you see your role in the business community? As far as a voice and what you have here. I guess the mission of the Treehouse.
Yeah, I guess we just want to continue to learn ourselves, because we're entrepreneurs ourselves,
Right.
and then provide sort of the resource center as we can. But really, it's the members helping the members, right? It's not us being like authoritative
Right.
life coaches, but part of our onboarding process is the care, how we help each member grow. And so our staff will ask, like, hey, what are the top 3 things that you could use help with in your business, and what are the 3 things that maybe you could help other people with?
Right.
And then we have this network of, hey, and even if they're past members that are on the mainland
Right.
now, or back on Kauai or whatever, it's like,
Right.
oh, you should talk to this person
Right.
on that subject,
Uh-huh.
and you guys could really help each other. So they do a really good job of sort of, the people helping each other.
Yeah, so more than just a personal workspace, it's sort of a network hub
Right.
of sorts for business and,
Right.
and for like-minded individuals.
And I think most of the shared office spaces in Hawaii are really good at that. We just, I can't speak for that, but I know that our staff and my wife, and like, that is our motivation, is
Right.
that, we want to create that sort of resource that wasn't there when we were trying to do what we were trying to do.
Sure. So we all want to know too, the boss and what keeps people in Hawaii. But first, what was your connection to Hawaii? What was your first tap on the soil, or?
Yeah, I was born here. Grew up in Kailua. Went
Uh-huh.
to Punahou. Went to Naval Academy.
Okay.
Was in the military for like 6 or 7 years as a salvage officer.
Okay.
And project manager for submarine
Uh-huh.
maintenance. I worked
Okay.
at the shipyard here.
Okay.
Loved it as an officer, and then started this surf park company, and that's been the journey I've been on.
So that's interesting. Not everybody goes in the military. Was that a family thing, or?
No, it was like, my dad had gone there, and wasn't like a friend type dad. He was like a mentor type dad.
Right.
And so his
Keep
idea
your
of being
stuff together, son.
yeah, his idea of the college decision was like, oh, you want to go to USD and be a fine arts major, but you got into the Naval Academy? Like, I'm not going to pay for you to go to USD. If you want to finance that yourself, great. I love you. I support you. But it's just too good of an opportunity for you to pass up. And
Right.
so, I don't know.
Looking back, do you agree with that?
I do. I think for me,
Sometimes dads know you.
It was
know they're-
super hard, right?
Right.
It was hard. And there came a day where I wanted to leave the Naval Academy, and it was like, or maybe it was a week where I was like, I was over it.
Plebe week,
It sucked. Yeah, it was like, I'd made it, the plebe summer thing was actually pretty cool,
Right.
because there's all this like physical challenges,
Right,
and like
you're-
surf, soccer guy, you're like,
Right.
cool, you can excel
yeah, right.
at that part. But then the academic year starts, you're getting yelled at all the time, and you don't get sleep. I made the soccer team, so I'm playing D1 soccer, and I don't think the coach knew my name. You know?
Right. That's
There's
too
like
bad.
14 seniors on the team. We're like fighting the seniors in practice. Like, it's
Right.
intense. And no one was from Hawaii. There I had 2 classmates from that were in my company from Hawaii,
Right.
but they were, we
Yeah,
barely
it's
saw
hard
each
to
other.
see, yeah. So
And-
busy.
And at one point I was like, I'm done with this. And no cell phone, no music. Like, they do a really good job of sort of like stripping your personal identity away to
Keeping
like
you focused and
care about
getting you through.
the community, or it's supposed to be this leadership test tube for 4 years.
Right.
And then I don't know, somehow it like got me to this place where it's like, okay, if I'm doing this, I gotta love it. And so
Right.
I was in the boats, and they had a great sort of naval architecture program,
Right.
on top in the country.
Sure.
It's underground pools.
Because in your junior, senior year, you kind of get guided a little bit as you, or you already had your degree that you were selected towards.
Yeah, you
or
pick that
branch.
maybe, I forget, the end of your
Right.
freshman year, that you're gonna go down this engineer, this technical path, versus maybe the, going down like a poli-sci path or
Right, right.
something. And then I got into soccer, and I like, there's nothing else to do. So I played soccer twice a day, 3 times a day. I went from being easily the worst guy on the team to at least start, I started at the end, and for me, that was a huge accomplishment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, when you get up in that level with soccer, it's not, it's tough to stay and compete in that level without injuries and different things that happen.
Yeah. Luckily in that era, it was like such, like, East Coast D1 soccer was just so physical that that was the only way. If it was super technical and like, I'm just not a great soccer
You just had to brawl.
I suck at everything. Yeah, but in a foot race and like fighting.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
And so you always wanted to come back. You for sure you were going to come back to Hawaii. Were there thoughts of staying in the mainland?
No, I like did enough in the military to sort of realize that I wasn't going to make an impact there. Like
people make that question around their 03, kind of like, okay, I'm going to stay in or not. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like you have enough exposure, especially in my community, it's 300 officers, no enlisted.
Right.
And so all the senior officers want to mentor the young officers. And so it's like, it's really neat that you have this huge mentoring culture of guys that are 25,
too,
30 years in. They want to know what your 30-year plan is and what's your plan for your wife and how's retirement looking and like how are you going to pay for
really
college.
map it out for you.
Oh, yeah. And like these are, some of the coolest people I've ever met. But yeah, it was, the other part of it was, if I wanted the pinnacle job still wasn't worth 30 years of my life. Or I don't know, it just at the time, and that's a mid-20s decision, right? Or like a late 20s decision. But yeah, it seems like maybe there's more out there to do.
Well, lots of benefits for going in the military, that's for sure.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I tell every young person that, I mean, if everybody served their community and learned to be selfless and sort of, think about, I think that's natural in Hawaii, right? We're going to do what's best for the community. There's like this social accountability, but at a bigger scale to like put the community first in our decision making.
And especially when you see, when you travel a little bit in the military, you see some of how the other side of the world works. Or
were you in the military?
I was Army, for
awesome.
3 years I went in. So yeah, you see the rest of the world and see what poverty really is, but also that you can do something about it. I guess doing business and starting business. What got you in that space of surf real estate and
so my degree was in boat design, specifically hydrofoils, and I'd gone to my friend's house to like have a beer after working at the shipyard for like a 14-hour day. He's like, bro, check out this fake wave, and it was a hydrofoil making a wave in the middle of these mountains in Spain, like a 15-second YouTube video.
Okay.
And I called my dad driving home. I'm like, Dad, this is insane. Like, there could be fake, like perfect waves. Like, it makes sense. We've put guys on the moon. Why can't we make waves that are like machine quality? It can't be that hard.
Yeah, I see them now. Some of them, they dial in this wave in this part over here so that they can do launches over here. They can basically like make a skate park out of these waves. Yeah,
it's fascinating. And I think the sport, the culture. I mean, Hawaii invented surfing, and this legitimacy. Duke wanted surfing to be in the Olympics. Now it's here. Carissa just became our first gold medalist. I would just love to see. I think sports and team sports and that like mental hardening is not sort of celebrated enough, especially here. Like Carissa won the gold medal. John John's in the Olympics. He's a world champion. I mean, we should really. I didn't know this until like 4 weeks ago, but beach volleyball was invented in Hawaii.
Oh, really?
And we have like 47 Olympians that are volleyball players. I mean, to me, it's like, man, it's like to pursue that type of excellence. It translates into anything. And I think where society gets it is like we all respect the Navy SEAL, right? We all respect the Army Ranger, the Delta guy, because we know that they've hit this pinnacle of excellence.
Right, what it takes. We've seen all the videos,
but like, we should really celebrate these athletes as well,
Well, Hawaii, Rick Blangiardi was saying, because he was in the sports for a long time, and he was saying that Hawaii produces the most Olympic athletes
per capita.
Yeah,
I bet it. No, I believe it.
Right.
I mean, we have a Olympic skateboarder, Jaimana Reynolds, was just in the Olympics. I mean, but I feel like we could. And I think it's like Carissa does a really great job as a surfer, and an ambassador to the sport as a Hawaiian. Like I think she's super fascinating. But even talking to her dad, it's like, the girls that are the next generation of Carissas, like they don't have access to these fake waves, this artificial surfing, and it allows for like another level of learning curve.
Yeah.
And perfection in these new sort of surfing maneuvers. And so, the girls that he's coaching that are in that 12, 13 age group, the ones that can afford to fly all the way to Texas once a month or every
you see
other
that
month.
Shane Dorian's boys out there,
Right,
full on ripping it,
man,
because he's getting
that
hours
kid's
after hours.
amazing.
But that's what it takes, that kind of practice, to have that access to that, and it's not cheap.
Right. Yeah, it isn't cheap. And again, it's like, is the goal for any sport for people that we want to have, everyone be Olympians? No, I don't think so. Like, I still play soccer. I went through an Olympic development program.
Right.
I really quickly knew at a young age I wasn't going to be in the World Cup team, but like, it's still a lifelong passion. I think if we can instill fitness and wellness and eating healthy and like citizenship through action sports, and I think then it becomes a pretty fascinating place.
Right, Hawaii, and it's a great avenue for a lot of families, for scholarships for their own children, but also, being involved as coaches and leaders, and so you see that all over the place. Do you coach?
I haven't in the last 2 years, but yeah, historically I've been coaching in Kailua.
Right.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's like, I told my wife when we were trying to get pregnant that I'd find not having kids, I can get the kid fix coaching and feel like maybe I'm affecting more kids like that, but then we got pregnant and now we have twins that are 9 months old.
Right. So, yeah, if you ever want a challenge, go coach like a 6-year-old, volunteer for coach a 6-year-old team.
I was doing that. Yeah, at Leisure Down, I was helping like the 4 to 6-year-olds for a while, and it's like
you're spending the whole day waiting for your game, and
the
it's
best
hot.
part was like watching the boys versus the girls. The girls are like super tough.
Boom,
The boys are crying and holding hands, and you gotta like sort of get them to want to play the sport. And like, it's awesome. And then I coached like that sort of 16 to 19-year-old age group. That was a whole nother challenge, but super fun.
Especially with parents too. You have to, you're guiding parents alongside the kids do. They have expectations and things.
Or in lots of cases, it was like the lack thereof, and that you're providing this sort of safe space for them to like be successful and be excellent, because at home they can't be.
Right. It's one space where you see a lot of kids go down to the beach a lot and they're successful surfing, or the sports can be a great way for folks to, find themselves. I guess.
And as I understand, I mean, that's what my partner's family, the Kealanas, that's what they do on the west side. It's like, hey, we'd rather see you in the ocean than on land, because we know you're going to be, stimulated and pursuing some kind of healthy activity and not doing whatever's happening on land. And I love that.
Well, that leads me to sort of the last question as we wrap things up, and we talk about we've talked a lot about you, but a little bit more about you. You said your children and you're from Hawaii, and where do you go to escape? When you find time, where's your getaway from everything here in Hawaii? I don't need to go anywhere. It's like I love Oahu's my island. We've been going to the outer islands recently. We have a little boat that sort of like the bane of my existence is like maintaining Sailboat?
this boat. It's a fishing boat. It's like I got it. My dad had it, and then he passed away, and so I have this boat that I have to take care of all the time.
Sure, yeah, it's not. Can't just leave it.
It's the best and the worst thing, But no, I'm lucky. My wife's from here and like has a big family, and so being able to get in the ocean. Or
you hope to teach your
soccer.
kids fishing and.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my wife has them in the pool every day. Like they love the water, and so and again, it's like they can do what they want to do. But yeah, if we get this facility built, then at least this group of kids, starting with my daughters, will have access to world-class facilities, and like, why can't we have that in Hawaii?
Right. So you're looking for investors?
We're kind of done there, but yeah, I mean, we're looking like partnerships. We're like halfway through the design process, working with Group 70, and going through an entitlements process.
You'd figured you'd have some pro surfers coming out of the woodwork, kind of like in to support something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think pro surfers don't support it. It's just our partner is, sort of handles that part of the business, Brian, and he is, sort of the ultimate pro surfer.
Sure.
Right. I mean, he's kind of like the modern day Duke. It's as I think of
that
him,
helps to have good partners like that. Finding the
best partners. Yeah. And I'm just learning. I mean, I think everything is,
Okay. So if they add office space here or in Kailua, where's the best place to go out and eat around here?
Well, in Kailua, we have a restaurant called the Boardroom, so obviously that's
the first choice,
spot
right?
to go to. Yeah, but yeah, around here, I've been going to Et al. In Fulan. It's amazing. But from here, we can walk. Like we'll get a group together and walk to lunch most days. And
yeah, Kahala is so centrally located too.
Yeah, it's great. And then Kaimuki's right here, and it's like as far as like, restaurant tours, like that whole strip is pretty phenomenal.
Right.
Kailua has a bunch of good food. I end up going a lot to Hollywood Joe's in Haiku. I just like grew up there, and it's magical for me.
It's your spot, yeah.
And then I cook. Yeah. And
What's your dish? What's
Oh, whatever my wife wants. Yeah, it's like it's never the same.
Did you learn that in the Navy or growing up or what?
I grew up cooking. Yeah, my mom liked cooking. My godfather was this kind of retired big black guy that lived in Mililani, and that's what our kind of pastime was fishing and cooking together.
No way.
And so, yeah, both of my sort of godfather-esque figures were all about cooking. So yeah, it's probably the most de-stressful thing I do, to answer your previous question.
Sure.
Like working out and maybe cutting the grass for some reason and cooking. Yeah.
It brings order to your life when you have to go through this process. Sometimes I wish you'll go do dishes somewhere, and that would be the happiest day of my life. Just being able to just kind of go through that process, and the cooking does bring that joy. And then enjoying it and sharing it afterwards.
Yeah, whatever it is, that's like what is it? I think organizational psychologists call it flow state, right? Where you're like you're so enthralled. Surfing does it for me. Rock climbing, playing soccer.
Yeah, just let your mind free think while you're doing this.
Yeah, and you're problem solving, but in a very tangible way.
Right.
Cooking is very I'm not one to follow a recipe, so I'm very like tasting as I go, trying to solve a problem. So I think that's
listen, Keno, it looks like Hawaii's been very good to you, and we're excited that you're here trying to make it work.
We're trying. Yeah.
For the business folks here in Hawaii, and before we cut out and go, any last words or anything that you want to share with the Hawaii Boss crew out there?
No, I think it's just every day like keep trying hard. I think everyone, even if they got a job, they have a passion, and like we want more people in Hawaii to be like pushing that small business thing, because small business is where you have to care about your community, and it's like learning how to take risk. It's one thing I saw in the pandemic is like we really had this idea that the most conservative solution was the best solution, and it may be, but I think it's always worthy of like discussion, like in a combat situation, right? Like
evaluate risk.
It might be more risky the most conservative solution, right? So yeah, I think that small business thing, you just learn so many skills. You have to be a student of life, and learn about accounting and finance and marketing, and none of these things are stagnant. They are always, these are dynamic topics that you are always having to learn about. And that's the fun part about it. That's the fun part.
So it's fun. It doesn't have to be drudgery, I guess, as we, the folks trying to figure out as they're coming up and they come to Hawaii Boss and try to figure out, okay, what do I do next? There's space for you somewhere.
It has to be fun. Like you're going to be working hard on it, and it's like you're going to be working anyway, right? Like we're all going to be doing 8 hours of work a day anyway. This myth that like, oh, you own a business, and like I get that a lot, right? Oh, it looks like you own all this stuff, so you must be like crushing it financially. And it's like, no, a lot of times it's like as the business owner, you work for your people who work with you, right? You got to make sure they get paid, and that there's like people showing up for the services, and
sometimes you'll see that somebody who maybe comes into a business with a bit of money and thinks they can start taking vacations, maybe some of the medical field or something like that. They kind of pop something up, they got all these loans and they can kind of move things, but then they realize like, oh, if this is the paycheck to keep coming, I'm the one that makes this thing go. No, totally. And like building a team and like, having some sort of that's not 8 hours a day
culture and so I think if you're going to be working and putting 40 hours, the majority of our lives into something, like better care about it. Whether you're a salary person or you're not, it's like it's just way better to care about what you do.
Don't halfway do it. Just like in that when you're in the academy and you said, I'm in or I'm out. If I'm going to be in, I better start finding something that's fun about it.
Right. It's like life's short. Take ownership of it, and if you're not happy in the situation you are, like the only person that's going to change it is yourself. It's like get a different job, like whatever.
Right. And after everything, still be you. Don't compromise you for someone else.
Yeah, you gotta be true to that.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, Keno, it's been awesome.
I'm appreciative of the
Yeah,
time. That was
spending
fun.
time with you. And,
Yeah. I feel like I need to learn as
till
much
next
as I
time.
can from you.
Yeah. Aloha.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.